It's a loud one. It's Kevin Kenny. Welcome to the Build Series live here in New York City. And Rolling Stone magazine called our guest's new album a knockout vocal showcase. Please let's give a round of applause to Maggie Rose.
Hello.
This is a very lively bunch. This is going to be a fun chat, Maggie.
Is.
First time ever on Build, you were telling me. What do you think of it so far?
I love it. It's such a great space. And I think the people who've been on it today, it's such a versatile lineup. It's been really cool. We're happy to be part of it.
There's always somebody coming through. And as if you can see at home, if you're watching us, we've got some instruments around us. And they're not just for show. You are going to be very kind and perform for us a little bit later.
They're a little for show, too.
A little bit.
Right?
This is beautiful. I just put this on my Instagram. This is gorgeous.
Her name is Pearl.
Do you name guitars?
Well,
or did
she
you
has
just
a
name that guitar?
No, I've always named her. But, you know, she's starting to yellow a little bit in her lovely old age.
Aww.
But we love that about her. It makes her more enduring. She sounds better the older she gets.
Yeah. Hey, this might be the weirdest question in the world, but
I can't wait.
But like, are guitars almost like pets?
I think so, especially for my bandmates. I mean, they have a very intimate relationship with their guitars, and you need to take care of them. They require maintenance, just like pets require food and love and attention, and you need to make sure that you treat it well and it will treat you well.
Is it emotional at all, though, when you have to say goodbye to an older instrument?
Yes. I mean, I've had a few, like I had a Taylor that I had to retire because the pickup never sounded good, and then that one just came out of repair. One of the tuning keys was falling off, and the pickup didn't sound very well, and the pickup guard is sort of peeling off, and as I mentioned, she's yellowing like an old tooth. I'm talking
Pearl,
about
I'm not going to let her talk
Pearl
about
is
you
probably
like
not
that,
appreciating
right?
how I'm describing you, but she's trusty, and she's been with me for a couple years now.
Good old Pearl. Can we get a round of applause for Pearl?
Pearl! We love Pearl.
We thought we'd start there, right?
Yeah, she's on stage with us. She deserves an introduction as well.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there's just so many things to talk about. I want to talk about the new album that has just been getting such rave reviews. I've heard so many different reviews. It's been called Trippy Country Soul.
Hell yeah, I like
That's kind of cool, right?
Trippy part is something that I had never had attached to any descriptors of my previous music, but it's Nashville music. I've been there for over a decade, and in that time, I think the most important ingredient for me was the people that I made the record with. And after spending so much time in that community, I became friends with these other musicians in bands like Them Vibes and the Brothers Osborne, of course, members of my own touring band who had been with me for a while. And we just collaborated together, and I did this all independently, so without a record label, AKA. And we just did what we wanted to do without any deadlines or being under the gun. And I think really great things happen when you just make music for the love of that and the love of the people you're making it with.
I got to ask you, though, because I think that the idea of being independent, it's romanticized a little bit in popular music these days, right? Like, oh, that's awesome, and they champion you and it works. How scary is it, though, when you're actually, you know, there's no major label net beneath you for the first time ever?
I'm definitely a fan of this format for me personally because it's allowed me to venture out, and you know, this was my first real foray into music that wasn't country, and I could take risks, and we could do it live, and I had a 13-piece band, and we were all in one room, and we tracked it from top to bottom, so what you hear on the record is one take all the way through that me and my band collectively settled on. And if I had a label, as I had always had in the past, I'm sure that there would have been suggestions for me to deviate from what goals we had set for ourselves. So I'm a fan of it, but certainly I think artistically, because you have so much skin in the game, it has made me make every decision a little more intentionally, and I have more ownership of it, and of course there's more risk, but there's more reward, in my opinion, as well.
You talk about it being a Nashville record, but not inherently a country record. Can you explain that to some us dumb New Yorkers watching that just think it's one and the same?
That's how we classify you.
You know?
Not at all. I made a record that served each song.
Okay.
So I mentioned this band, Them Vibes, that I collaborated with heavily, and they're actually my backing band now on tour for my own headlining Change a Thing tour, and also with Kelly Clarkson on the Meaning of Life tour. But two members of that band I wrote a bulk of the material with, and we just decided that instead of setting out to fit this record into the confines of one genre, how about we just support each song and give it the arrangement that it deserves? And it took us to this soul, funk kind of genre lane that I had never been in before, and it allowed me to sing. And we weren't using auto-tune and overdubs, so I realized that the gap was bridged between what people were coming out to see in our live shows and what we were recording on the record as well. And so it took us out of that traditional country music lane, and I no longer was writing singles for country radio, but more trying to write with my friends a cohesive album top to bottom that was a body of work that contained itself.
Yeah. You talk about that gap between the live events, the live music, and then what you get on the record. And it's this like under talked about but all important gap for us as music fans, where you go and you fall in love with a live show, and then you buy the CD or you stream it online, and you're like, wait, this isn't exactly what I got. Was that sort of the inspiration behind approaching it in this one take fashion, 13 people and you in a big room just recording it live?
Yes, it was. But I'd like to say that from the outset, we had this grand plan of the 13 of us. This is how we're going to make the record. And then, we had a documentary that we ended up making. That was something that manifested later on down the road. We just set out to cut 3 songs. So we had Pull You Through, Just Getting By, and Smooth. And we were going to release a little EP. And we all felt the magic of the way that we had done it in the room that day. And then it became obvious to all of us that we were going to finish out the LP that way. So we completed a record after that first session had gone so well, and it just took on a life of its own.
So was there a moment that went from being what sounds like an EP to an LP? Was there like a particular session you can take us back to where you guys just kind of all collectively looked at each other like, wait, there's a lot here?
I mean, not to sound cheesy or cliche, but it was that first session.
Really?
It really was that magical thing of, okay, I figured out what the disconnect between, like what you were saying, those recordings and that live experience are. And it's the fact that I'm not manicuring every vocal. I'm not comping together a line. I'm just letting the performance be what it would be on stage. That's your chance. That's your shot. The urgency of that and having to live up to that and deliver the emotion that you deliver when you have people in front of you was brought into the studio. And I'd never had that experience before.
Right.
So I think we all realized that magic that was created in those that first session with those 3 songs. And we all respect each other. And with no obligations to any other reason than our love for making music and to each other, we decided that this was the project that we were going to make in its completion.
Yeah. When did the title, of course, I'm sure it's more of a mission statement than just a title, change the whole thing, but when did that become clear for the title of the project?
I actually love that you asked that because it was in New York City, and it was last summer, and I came up to play a session, and that night, my drummer, Sarah Tomek, who is just a force to be reckoned with, was playing with Steven Tyler in Central Park, and we all went out to celebrate afterwards, and she and her husband, who is Larry in Them Vibes, cornered me in a bar. Over tequila is always a good time to decide your record album title. And I had another idea for In the Gallery because the studio is called The Gallery. So I figured, okay, these are all of our pieces of work. And the one song that I didn't write with Larry and Alex was Change the Whole Thing. And they really were supporting of the fact that what you're doing is changing the whole thing. You're changing the lane that you're going to live in. You're changing the sound. You're changing your approach. And the song Change the Whole Thing in itself is about leaving the world a little bit of a better place. So it just encompassed everything that we felt, the sentiment behind the record and the technical approach that we were taking. So it happened here in a bar over tequila, and they all changed my mind.
That's
actually.
great.
Thank you, New York, and thank you, tequila.
And tequila.
And those the 2 ideas were floating around, but that's where it really galvanized here.
And now where, maybe in New York too, but where did the Kelly tour come about?
So Kelly Clarkson and I are managed by the same company, and her husband is Brandon Blackstock, whose father co-manages me with my husband, Austin Marshall. So there's that familial theme extends even into the management structure. But they never wanted to force a friendship or some collaborative relationship between Kelly and I. And Brandon was listening to Smooth at their house, and Kelly happened to hear it organically probably 2 months after we released the first 45 that had Smooth on it. And she loved it and was drawn to it. So the synergy there really fell into Kelly's lap, and she was the one who took it upon herself to promote that song in particular and then reach out to me, have me on a show with her in Montana. That went really well. And when she was putting this tour together and there were holes that Kelsey Ballerini wasn't going to be able to attend, she asked me to be her direct support.
That's incredible. Now that tour, because you're doing so much these days, you got your own headlining tour, which congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's amazing. And then you also are doing the Kelly dates. Did they both start last weekend?
We've been on the Change the Whole Thing tour pretty much since last year, since we put the album out in September. So we've been trying to just consistently travel the country, and we're kind of weekend warriors. We'll do shows Thursday through Saturday. And I'd be confident in saying that we don't miss many weekends touring as a collective unit and getting the music out there. But we've also done shows with OAR, and we're doing some weird shows this summer with like Trey Anastasio, and we just had a show announced today with Robert Plant and Hall & Oates, and I've been collaborating with John Oates, which is like just totally crazy. So our music is living in all these different environments that I would have never even envisioned for my music to live.
Yeah. Well, but also a perk of being independent and being, I think, a forward-thinking artist, right?
Sure. And having a sound that I think is adaptable and more rootsy. And, you know, I just did this K-Amo cruise, and I felt like a bit of an outlier when I got on the boat because there are people like Dawes and Emmylou Harris and Jason Isbell, but that is what that scene is. It's about that organic element and that musicianship and that camaraderie between a band on stage, and it's just allowing us to get our foot in the door in places that I've never had access to.
I'm so happy you brought up the cruise, because I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about it, but like, what is that like? I've never talked to an artist that's done a cruise before, but I've always wanted to ask, like,
I've done many.
What is that like? I mean, that's just me. Like, that must be just so wild.
It is wild. K-Amo in particular is cool because they're all the patrons are pretty much grandfathered in, and they've been on this cruise now for 12 years, and
they get off though.
You do twice. Right? We're on a boat for 7 days.
But they haven't been on this cruise for 12 years, right?
They have no.
Like,
no, God, I hope not. Like, I've been on this boat for 12 years.
Report this? Yeah.
Yes. You know, it's once a year, thank God, or else I think they would probably be seasick permanently. But it's people who really appreciate music, and they want to know the whole body of work and not just what's your top 10 single on the radio.
Right.
What have you. They are invested in the story behind the music, and they want that authentic thing, and they're not just going to sit in the audience and wait till you play your hit and then wander off to the next show. They're there whether they are familiar with your music or not, and I felt very much a part of that family at the end of that week.
Speaking of crowds, just audiences, how does a Kelly show compare to a Maggie show? Of course, you know, the audiences are going to be different, but like how...
A couple thousand people in the audience.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, aside from, I guess, volume maybe, right? But like as an artist that's playing to your audience versus maybe predominantly someone else's audience, how does that feel, or how do you approach it?
Well, with Kelly, she's very different than any major act I've toured with because she's... Well, there's a lot of people I've toured with who are gracious and humble, but she's very down to earth. She's exactly who she presents herself to be on the big stage. She had me sing her encore with her our first night on Saturday, Miss Independent. I was living out all my high school dreams.
No way.
And it was really cool. I even had my first riser experience where I got to descend into the stage. She didn't want to tell me during sound check that I was about to start lowering down. Just freaked me out. But the difference is that you're trying to remember that you have an opportunity here to now expose yourself to a new fan base, and you also want to be deferential to the fact that she's giving you her platform to then expose your music to. And luckily for Kelly, this pairing has been pretty symbiotic because they seem to resonate with my music. She's very soulful, R&B, and I think that they really enjoyed it. There's a lot of similarities between what Kelly and I deem important in music in our live show. I wish I had her production, and I wish I had her horn section and all that, but it's really nice that she's been so open arms to me.
You know, I guess a fan would imagine that you would learn so much from playing shows with people and touring with people. Do you find you get to actually sit down and talk to these people, or everyone's so busy? Like, is it more of a, you know, maybe 6 months after tour you look back, oh, that's what I learned? Or are you able to, in the moment, you know, talk to a Kelly?
Kelly is a unicorn of a human being. She runs up to you and gives you a hug right away. And the fact that she even invited me, and Bryn Cartelli, who's her first, she has 2 openers, so we're her direct support, and Bryn is the winner of the last season of The Voice. She's 15 years old.
Wow.
So she gives her a 20-minute set. She gave us 45 minutes, which is kind of long considering what I've had in most other opening slots on major tours. But the lesson that I take away from that is that you have to be a community with other artistic people, and remember that you will always be either the opener or the headliner at any stage in your life, and it flips for everybody. So just being humble and welcoming and collaborative, especially like what we did on this last record, the collaborative aspect of that has enhanced my life so much, and it's made me a better artist. So I just try and remember that when I'm in a situation where I have someone opening for me.
Yeah.
To be like Kelly was, or whomever I've opened up for that's also been gracious like that.
Totally. Let's get to a couple studio audience questions. They'll come from up front over here.
I know this guy.
Hey, Maggie.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey. So you have like over a decade of experience in the Nashville music industry and country music. And as a guy from Singapore, I moved to Nashville to study at Belmont and like do music business with the end goal of expanding country music globally. So just with your experience, what do you think is one key factor in just expanding this storytelling genre?
I'm going to have to take it to a sensitive spot, but I think it would be diversifying the pool of artists that are coming out of that genre in particular. And that doesn't just mean more women on the radio. That means more country artists of color. That means more country artists of a different sexual orientation. I think that that would really globalize a genre that has put storytelling on a pedestal and lyrics on a pedestal. But unfortunately, you know, that's not where it is. And I think that's why artists like myself and other female artists in particular have gone elsewhere to get exposure than country radio. And they've found different sides of their artistry as well. But to globalize that, I would say that we'd really need to begin with a little more variety coming out of that.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Time for one final question.
Hi, Maggie. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm well.
Come up.
Just wanted to say that we all think you're an
Keep
outstanding...
coming. Keep coming. We can't see you. Sorry.
We all think you're an outstanding performer, and we also think you're a tremendous songwriter. So I just wanted to get some insight into your process, the creative process to writing the song.
So, insight into the writing and creative process would be, I mean, it's a myriad number of things, but I think at the top of that list for me is being comfortable, first of all, in a setting where you can have that outpouring of honesty and storytelling. And for me right now, just a big catalyst for that comfort has been finding the right people to write those songs with or go take them into the studio with. And in a more insular way, I think just what's on me to be prepared to have the right inspiration and ideas is to just be receptive and present. And I know that sounds kind of broad, but there's so many distractions right now in our daily lives with social media and phones and just constant barrage of people wanting your attention. Just try and make sure that you're paying attention to those moments of inspiration that could pass you by if you're not looking for them.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your question.
Well, we're running out of time right now, but I want to do something really quick. Your band is here.
Yes, they are.
Are you guys camera shy? Get on up
that
here.
is the most
Get on
funny
up
question
here.
I've ever heard.
This is great.
Are these
They're
guys
going to be performing for
camera
you
shy?
in just a few moments, so I thought we'd
Look at
introduce
their
the fellas.
outfits and
Yeah, look
ask
at these
yourself
outfits.
if
You
they're
just got to put this
camera
on camera. This is amazing.
Beautiful men.
What's going on, man? Hey. Here, come around. And I want to introduce you guys to Build. So, what's
Smell good, bud. What are you wearing?
Thank you, dude. Nothing. I think like Old Spice deodorant.
Old
I'm probably
Spice.
getting it from
Very
you
old school
guys.
guy.
There you go.
Are they camera shy?
What's your names, just for the folks at home?
Brother Love. That's my name.
I love it.
Hey, Alex Haddad. Nice to meet you guys.
Alex, Dad, and Brother Love. And where are you guys from?
I'm from New York City.
Nice. What neck of the woods?
Back home, baby. Back home.
Where?
I grew up in Queens, and I lived most of my whole life on East 5th Street, right down the street. I used to come buy records in this spot here, Tower Records, for many, many years.
That's amazing.
Good
Where
to be home.
are you from?
Boston, baby.
Boston. Never heard you say that.
How'd you guys link up really quick?
Oh, wow.
Oh, Larry, why don't you take this one, Brother Love?
So Alex and I were, we moved from Brooklyn to Nashville. We were in a band. It was a country band. We were on a cruise ship, the Blake Shelton and Friends cruise ship. We were the Friends. Maggie Rose was on said cruise with my future wife, Sarah Tomek. He and I.
Now current wife.
Current wife, right. We got to know each other. We all became friends. And then a few years later, Maggie, Alex, and I started writing songs. And here we are.
Oh, amazing. Round of applause. If you are, there I am. If you're watching us live on BuildSeries.com, these fellows and Maggie are going to be performing for you in just a few moments. Thank you so much once again, guys.
Thank you.
One more time for Maggie.